All right, gentlemen, welcome to the social hour with the Fighting Age Male in partnership with Accountable Masculinity.
I'm your
So
I'm your guy.
that's Victor over there for you, Nate, because I know we had Brandon on here last week. So this week it's Nate. I got two more guys into the society just today, so hopefully they'll be joining us shortly. Um, But tonight's topics are basically going to be about, we're going to break it down with psychology of masculinity and simplicity of masculinity and how you can do both simultaneously. With that being said, let's wait no longer to introduce Chris as our consigliere and in partnership again with Accountable Masculinity with Victor. So, Victor, why don't you introduce yourself? Victor's our lead speaker for the more ethics.
Yeah. So, my name is Victor Vinciant. I'm a author, a coach, a lot, basically a mindset coach, an investor, a podcaster. I do a lot of different stuff, man. My focus is men. On this side, I actually coach women. I go by the internet stepdaddy on that side of things. So it's a good mix of trying to balance expectations for men by balance expectations for men and women based on having coaching consults, and I've also written books that balance out how a man should conduct himself from the most emotionally disciplined position that he could be in. So glad to be part of the Fighting Age Male Society and helping men become better versions of themselves.
Right on, Spence. You there still?
Yeah, I'm here. I'm just having
You having
having
some
some.
internet issues? I can't see your face. Can you see him, Victor?
No, he's out right now.
Yeah.
So one of the questions that we brought up before, as we was getting ready to have this discussion, is about how to deal with rejection and how not to let it burrow into your soul and become resentment. Because one of the principles that the FAMS Society talks about is stoicism, which is what I like to call emotional discipline. Because having the emotional intelligence of knowing that you're in a moment of rage, resentment, and just a negative feeling that you're gonna lash out, at any given moment in time. That's where your emotional intelligence is. Like that's where your ego resides. All of that stuff. See, everything in you that can recognize that tension is a matter of just you recognizing that you've been offended in some kind of way and not been recognized, right? So, how do you control that? And this is where emotional intelligence comes in, understanding that you're actually triggered and you need to do something with that energy and try to figure out how to arrest it first and then transmute it. Because even after you arrest it, you still got to do something with it, right? So everybody says go to the gym. Everybody says find an activity to physically get it out of you. I think those are real, answers. But like before we got started, Chris, you were already talking more about how to use that to push you, instead of be consumed by it,
Right.
you know.
Right.
So, because in front of you, you're putting your ego in front. I talked about before. I'm going to always bring back up the ego, but the ego is the immature version of you that wants to just react, to get exactly what it wants. But we know that that version of you is probably the least competent version of you. So we want to find a way to get that behind us to push you and transmute that into functional rage, is what I like to call it. By itself is dangerous, but pair it with the right, I don't know if you guys are into cars or whatever, like some people are, but the right fuel to air ratio, to get you some different numbers on the dyno, right? So uh, putting a goal, like after you've been you felt slighted, you take it personally, because it's all about taking something personally, right? And then using it the right way. After you take something personal, you need to write it down and make a point of it, and then form a plan on how to overcome that. That's just it. There's like literally no other way around it. Once you've reached that barrier of you feel disrespected, slighted, and to the point of some level of resentment and jealousy, that's up to you to decide what to do with that, because you can't take it out on the people that didn't acknowledge you. You know what I'm saying? That you still are gonna need acknowledgement from in order to make that next step in your in your goal and your plan and stuff. So the idea of what Stoicism embodies in the Moral Ethics Hall, and what I believe is to be true as far as like emotional discipline is concerned, those things pair up very well for this conversation, because people talk so much about having emotional intelligence, but if you do not have control of your emotions and how you express them, the emotional intelligence doesn't exist, because you don't have any emotional discipline. So that's very, very key to think of when you're in that moment. So now that we got Spence back, you know what I'm saying? Where do you want to go with this, and what questions can I help answer tonight?
Hey, Victor, real quick. Do you want to touch back on the 5 rules of masculinity?
Okay, yeah, the five laws of accountable masculinity, which is found in this book. You guys can see my link tree in the comments. You guys can go check it out. But
these will be the 5 laws that you teach in
Yes.
the Moral Ethics Hall.
Yep, these will be the 5 rules that I will teach from the Moral Ethic Hall. And so rule number 1 is men focus on themselves. The whole point of being focused on yourself is so that these distractions that we're talking about, these fits of rage that we get from time to time, we don't get consumed by them. You got the first law, and I'll read it. It's rule number 1: men focus on men. Establish personal accountability standards amongst reasonable men who intend to improve our society. Create solutions for the benefit of our society by only discussing tangible outcomes based on our skills and networks. See, I wrote that definition so it can eliminate the unnecessary stuff. If it doesn't solve the problem, why are we discussing it? You know what I'm saying? Can your rage solve the problem? So you got to figure out where to put the rage. The next step is rule number 2 is we don't argue with women. This is very, very key. Okay, arguments are a waste of energy in most cases, right?
We hear you, Spence.
Arguing is a waste of space in most cases, right? So whatever arguing with women is even less helpful for men, in general. So, because this is key, because you might be in a position where the person that triggers the rage that you might be experiencing, and that lack of acknowledgement or respect, it could be a woman, and you can't allow yourself to be additional reason for you not to control your emotion, because it's not going to, fare very well with you. But I'll read the definition. Rule number 2, we don't argue with women. Women have their own issues, and so do men. As men, we can learn to mitigate our issues by observing conflict management skills of women. By remaining in observation mode, men can have a vantage point to control cyclic negative competitions and unhealthy conflicts with women. After implementing the findings from the observation into our philosophy, we should be better focused on ourselves. What's understood doesn't need to be said. Accountable men have code, meaning mind the business that pays you. You know what I'm saying? Speak when spoken to. Then when you're spoken to, handle the situation with the mindset and the discipline that it takes to get what you want. Nobody's ever gotten what they want respectfully by screaming and crying about it. So Rule number 3 is decentralized leadership. Requires knowing when to lead and when to follow. You must avoid misrepresenting fellow men. Although we are not perfect, we must have redeeming efforts. Meaning you're going to try to get whatever you want. You might fail. You might get denied. You might get rejected. But that is not a viable reason to lose your cool. That is not a viable reason to throw a tantrum. You know, you are not permitted to throw a tantrum and then think that that's the path to get what you want. This is about maturity.
Yeah.
So knowing when to lead and when to follow. That's rule number 3. Okay. Rule number 4, legacy and equity. Be selfless. Live a life of service towards your community and others. You must be credible and capable of both mentoring and being mentored. You must be receptive and coachable. Being able to instill knowledge and wisdom into others is an act of submission and a privilege. At some point, the thing that you're going after is going to put you in a leadership capacity, and you have to remember where you came from so you can teach others not to make the mistakes that you made. You know, so thinking about what you want in the present, and even if rage is, you know what I'm saying, part of how you feel, think about where you want to be and how useful that rage is for you right now and what you're modeling for those that are watching you, because you're setting an example whether you want to accept it or not. Somebody's going to come ask you for help. They're going to respect you by the way that you carry yourself. Somebody's always watching. So legacy and equity, being selfless is very, very important for men, especially when it comes down to maintaining emotional discipline. And a lot of men get admired by how they don't react. And that's one of the things that is you can't pay for that. That's just experience and perseverance. And which brings me to rule number 5, which I believe is the most important rule, but I had to put it at the end because once you talk about this, the conversation changes because it's very important. Accountable masculinity rule number 5 is sexual discipline. Men must exercise sexual discipline in order to be seen as credible leaders and to maximize their opportunities. Sexually disciplined men are the only trustworthy men. Sexual discipline is defined as the internal self-regulation of sexual urges and impulses and its accompanied decision-making. Sexual discipline is essential to overall health of society. A society that lacks sexual discipline foments distrust and will likely cause negative impacts on the family structure and community integrity. So there's always room where you can make a mistake, you know, and these rules play off of each other, and they all come back to, like, if you back up to just rule number 4, the legacy and equity piece, where you're supposed to be selfless, right? You cannot make selfish decisions, especially most sexual decisions are selfish decisions at the cost of something. You know what I'm saying? And it's an opportunistic mindset. It's transactional and it has limited impact. It has limited impact in the short term, but creates long-term negative impacts if you make the wrong decision at the wrong time. You see everything that's in the media that makes me invisible that would otherwise be invisible, and is usually associated with a sexually inappropriate relationship. Okay. Then so that impacts your legacy, you know. Then you also have to have great accountability partners around you, which is why you practice decentralized leadership, which is rule number 3, which means knowing when to lead and when to follow. Sometimes we got to be told what to do, bro. Sometimes you ain't gonna like what somebody tell you what to do. I might have to grab you to get you to listen to me. You know what I'm saying? But it's done in it's done in love. It's done in love, you know. Then that, because there may be a situation where you got a woman involved and you might outright be getting disrespected, but it's not in your best interest to react to it. Again, emotional discipline, rage, and all that stuff, which backs us up to rule number 2. That's why we don't argue with women, because arguing amongst men is unproductive, you know. So whatever it is with a woman, it's going to be 10 times worse for way less outcome, you know what I'm saying, for the positive. Which brings us all the way back to rule number 1. Men focus on themselves. Focusing on self is about discipline. Everything that this society is about as it pertains to masculinity is centered on discipline. If you don't have any discipline, you're not masculine and you're not useful, because nobody picks up the phone and calls useless men. The only the only person that loves a loser is a loser's mama, and winners have discipline. That's just the bottom line.
Yep. Now, also, Victor and I have touched base on a few things when speaking in the past, and I like for him to bring up the incident where we said, if you do not listen to a man now, when you have the biggest problem with it, you will ultimately have to listen to a man later when you still have that big problem.
Yeah.
And Victor breaks this whole thing down in such a better way. So, Victor, go ahead and take the floor and let them know kind of like your perspective or your philosophy on that idea.
So men have to respect men, first and foremost. And there are men that do not fear man at all. In man language, in my opinion, you cannot create respect without fear. There has to be a low level threat of violence amongst men for it to really be translated properly, right? And the men that don't adhere to that, they end up getting locked up. You know what I'm saying? So eventually you're gonna wind up listening to a man. And this is like, and it's not hard for men to go to jail. I think all of us kind of know that to some degree. We know, either had a personal experience or we know someone that's walked themselves right into some sort of confinement because they couldn't maintain a level of emotional discipline that was required for them to stay free. So like, if you don't believe that you have to respect men, then okay, let's walk through this scenario. You're driving your car, you get pulled over, and if you don't listen to men, this is the ultimate point. You're going to end up listening to a man in a uniform at some point. You're going to listen to a man, and he's going to have a uniform on at some point. You get pulled over. Who's pulling you over? Police officer in a uniform. Let me see your license and registration. You get an attitude. Now it goes from a warning to a potential jury event where you get your wrist cuffed, right? Then the man in the uniform is gonna put you in the back of the car. They're gonna drive you to a police station, and there's gonna be a man in a uniform to book you into that precinct. Then they're gonna give you a uniform that says you are confined at this moment in time. And then you're going to be in the general population with people who got on the same uniform as you. And you're still going to have to listen to them because you don't know the culture that's already there. And some people, there's an established hierarchy where you still have to listen to a man in a uniform. So you got access to different uniforms based on the choices you make, because you can choose to become a man in uniform, whether you join the military or first responder services or something like that. But you are going to be looking to be respected as a man, at some point. Whether you're a supervisor on the job, you don't want to deal with the disrespectful version of you. You know what I'm saying? So the most important thing that everybody's going to have to realize in life is that a man in a uniform is going to tell you what to do. So you might as well accept it, because before you know it, you might be the man in the uniform. But the decisions you make determine which uniform that you have on.
Yep.
So that's real, you know what I'm saying? So it doesn't matter how it feels or whatever, but it's the truth.
100%, Nate. 100%.
Yeah. So the I love
that's why I wanted you to touch base on that, because that's important to understand.
Yeah.
Because a lot of people, we get too wrapped up and overcomplicating shit in our heads, thinking just overthinking the day. Get out of bed and the first thought you have is complicated. The first, and then brushing your teeth becomes hard. Wipe your ass becomes hard. All that shit becomes hard because all you think is overcomplication in your head. So how do we simplify that? Because the quote goes, I believe it's Leonardo da Vinci, and he said, simplicity is the ultimate sophistication. And so to touch base on that, what's your philosophy on that, and how can we break that down to the viewers or Nate for this example?
I think there's always an elephant in the room. Every day the elephant might be a different color. You know what I'm saying? It might be like the elephant representing the problem, right? And you have to eat an elephant, a piece at a time. You can't take it up, can't take it all on. You have to distinguish what you can control from what you can only influence. There are very many things that we worry about that we are only in that we can only influence. Meaning, like tonight, I'm here putting my philosophy out, trying to influence the people that are watching. But I can't control anybody that's here. You know what I'm saying? They can listen to what I'm saying, and I can't follow up and make them do anything that I'm saying. But if you look at the simplicity of what I'm talking about, it's not hard to switch your brain from making undisciplined decisions to making disciplined decisions. It's just a choice. Bottom line, there's only two mindsets: you're either disciplined or undisciplined. There's like literally no in between, and you have to decide what you can control from what you can only influence, right? The undisciplined person doesn't have control, but is trying to force something. The person that, like, when we go back to the rage conversation, right? The person that lacks the emotional discipline, the inability to express themselves in a mature manner, not arrest their rage, that is an undisciplined person's thinking, right? The disciplined person can be going through the same thing, but chooses to express it through accomplishing a goal. They let it drive them. You know what I'm saying? Professional athletes are well known at doing this. How many of you know someone that was great at a particular sport in high school, but their behavior away from the sport, didn't allow them?
I know so many people like that.
Yeah.
Almost a third of my class are like that, to be completely honest with you. But real quick, we're gonna take a couple questions from Nate real fast. Chris, could you lead us in that area?
Yeah, so Nate asked, it's about what we opened with, Victor, what you were talking about in the beginning. But he said, so we arrest and then direct our emotions. You mentioned redirecting them towards something physical, like going to the gym. Do you have any suggestions for redirecting our, quote, functional rage in a healthy way in the short term? For example, while at work.
Pull out that notepad on your phone and write down how you feel. Look,
Yeah.
Look, man, let me tell you how powerful writing is. You create your fantasy escape world. You know what I'm saying? Where you get in there and for lack of better terms, you get to fuck people up. And then you get it out. And then later on, you go back and look at it, and you like, how useful is this? You know what I mean? Can you really, when you write the words to how you're feeling, you're really capturing how angry you can be. And if you had to let somebody else read that, how would it make you feel? You know what I'm saying? And then you take some of your power back, because this is why I always talk about speaking when spoken to, right? Don't be around people that put you in a defensive, because once you remember what you wrote and you remember where you were, you remember what was said, then you start to analyze your environment a lot more. You start using your emotional intelligence to have better discipline about where you position yourself. You know what I'm saying? Like, a lot of things on the random can happen, like where, wrong place, wrong time. Got it. There's some things that just out of your control. I mean, we just talked about control versus influence, right? You don't control time, but your presence in the wrong place can influence certain events as well too. So sometimes I would say you need to have a creative outlet, and it shouldn't be someone to dump on. You need to dump it into a space where you can see it and figure out how much investment of your emotions do you really want to have into this. Because this stuff messes your body up, bro. When you're mad, your stomach is upset, your appetite is gone, and nothing can satisfy you. You know what I'm saying?
Which we teach that in the nutritional area, but that department's not opening, I don't think, this year.
Yeah.
No, it's not. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Anyhow, stress really is the scientific equivalent to self-poisoning. So, I mean, but also the right amount of stress is what keeps the body alive. So it's all very.
That's why you got to transmute. That's exactly what I'm saying. So, like, When you write something, let me tell you why it's so important. And I'm kind of biased because, of course, I'm a writer, you know. But everything is true when you write it down because it's an agreement between what's up here and what's right here. Like you can write very, very technical and just say, this is what happened. This is where it happened. This is when it happened. You can get very technical and just leave it at that with no context, right? But what's in your heart that goes behind explaining why you felt the way that you felt, that's an emotional commitment to really, really document how pissed off you really were or how enlightened you really were in the moment. You know what I'm saying? So you have to have a real honest conversation with your ego. Like that, your ego needs to write. Like, remember, I keep telling all the men that when we had this conversation, what you're dealing with is the immature version of you. The immature version of you is the one that's 14 years old that knows every damn thing and he got a little hair on his chin. You know what I'm saying?
On his shoulder.
That's who you, yeah, exactly. That's who you're letting run the show when you're pissed off. That dude's gonna get you in trouble. Dude is definitely gonna get you in trouble.
He may get you there, but character is what keeps you there. And to keep going on character, let's keep it on topic of, let's keep it simple.
Yeah.
As they're doing that, sometimes it's not easy to just whip your phone out because, depending on the work you do, that could be unacceptable behavior or whatever. No tolerance. I've been fired from kitchens for using my phone just to check the time. So,
yeah.
You know what I mean? If that doesn't work, to keep it super simple, my only recommendation, just based off my own experience, is I've always had the opportunity to work out. Like I do push-ups anywhere. If I get really mad and actually get mad, I just work out. That's my stress relief right there. That's my drug. I just start doing push-ups somewhere, lift something heavy at work. I do something, do it a couple times, and then put it on the shelf. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
But now my only philosophy is life's a video game. If it's all truly a simulation, that means life's a video game and that everything happening to us is almost just Grand Theft Auto crazy circus life. Just enjoy it as it is. If you got people who are genuinely stuck in their emotions that are angry, I just giggle and laugh because truly they don't understand. When you have a higher awareness of this stuff, it just hits you different. You don't get mad as often. That could come with age too, because I'm 29. So, based off my experience, people who are too stuck in the day to day, they've grown attached to the title. I think that's why they always tell you, like Gandhi and all those weirdos, to tell you to detach yourself from the world, because in all honesty, once you do that, it's freeing. You're not stuck on this label of being the consultant for fucking XYZ company. And that's why I'm always angry. That's why I'm always late. I spilled coffee on my brand new suit. That's $3,000. You know what I mean? People who are just, and now I'm honking at the guy at the red light because he's smoking a doobie trying to get to his next light, just in a straight line.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And those people are so angry and pissed off in life, but I feel like they're too attached to the worldly possession of the title, that they think their life comes with.
Yeah, I don't.
That's the philosophy I take now. But what would you say for someone who's actually getting upset, getting pissed off? Maybe a boss is just rubbing them wrong that day. What in that instant could they do instead of do a push up, instead of change their philosophy overnight, or whip their phone out? What's the first thing that they could do? Does anybody have any ideas on that?
Breathe. You can breathe anywhere, around anyone.
Accept what's happening. Accept it is like the negative response or reaction to anything that triggers you is instantly you not accepting the rejection. Nobody's been told no or been denied more than men. Nobody gets told no more than men. You know what I'm saying? And
that's true.
Nobody. The world doesn't work without men accepting no. It just doesn't. So in that moment in time, just accept it as a higher level of rejection, because no matter what you're doing in life, every step that you take that puts you on another plateau or another frequency, there's plenty more people that's gonna tell us no, bro. Like I still get told no. I'm 45 years old. No matter what I know, somebody's telling me, no, I don't believe that, or I don't accept that, or it's not good enough. It's just what it is, man. Like I had a coaching call today, and I helped a young lady rationalize what she could have done differently, like with her father and her brother, because she's trying to piece a lot of other things together in her life. To people trying to get clarification on what they did in their own past, that closure, that accountability that people need in order to say, you know what, I could have done that better, but I got what I got, so it's time to move forward, right? And it's the lack of objectivity is bigger than what you feel. Once you accept that it's bigger than what you feel, it's like you were describing before. It's like some people get caught up in the day to day, the presentation of how they dress. They care too much about the aesthetics and the vanity of what's taking place. They care about what things look like and what they feel like, instead of recognizing that in the bigger picture, you're looking at the problem through a straw. And when you take the straw away, the problem that you're having in the acute moment is much, much smaller than what the bigger picture is. So, understand that the world doesn't revolve around how you react to things. And nobody's just sitting up trying to trigger you. You know what I'm saying? And even if they are, that's to let you know that that's just what their role is. Admit that they got a purpose too. Just be a man, motherfucker, also helps. Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, that's definitely part of it, man. Like, you don't get told no, man. Like, being told no is what brought us here. Rejection put this group together. you know, so this is part of it, man. Societies get pushed forward because rejection builds communities.
Yeah, I think for people who are trying to manage their rage at work, just touching base on what Chris said in the chat, said, accept it as it is. Eagle eye in the sky is a good way I manage my emotions while in an environment like work. So for work, I used to get like work rage, but so calm the hell down once I grew up a little bit. And in my experience, I've noticed that the reason at work it doesn't matter who gets mad at what. Once you grow up a little bit, maybe a little rougher, depending on how you grow up. But the way I grew up, if it doesn't go to a fist fight, then the argument doesn't fucking matter.
It don't matter.
Right. Yeah.
Yeah.
It's just like the rule number 2, law number 2 of the accountable masculinity is you don't argue with women, you don't argue at all. In terms of if it ain't go nowhere or do anything, you don't worry about nobody. That's also another way to manage. That's the way I manage my rage. I know what to be rageful about, because if I'm gonna get rageful, we're gonna do something. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Something's gonna happen. You're gonna get punched. I'm gonna get punched. Somebody's gonna.
Yeah. Like Victor said, arguments are a waste of time and space. Yes, sir. Exactly, Nate.
Very simple to digest, man. Like, these things, they show up. It's so easy, to just say, you know what, man, that's another reinforcing point. And when I wrote this in a way where you can see right through people, because they show you who they are by what they react to. And I think the other part of what accountable masculinity represents is we have to identify threats, man. We don't talk about identifying threats. We always talk about how we react to being provoked, when we could have potentially avoided the threat altogether. Because if self-preservation is key, it implies that you have to observe your environment to see what could be a threat to you.
Yep.
I just want to touch base really quick on the eagle in the sky thing that I said. If that doesn't
Elaborate.
really hit home for you, like if that doesn't make too much sense, it's more stepping out of your own shoes and getting a new perspective. Like think of a time that you've been around two people, kind of like you were the third, maybe you're hanging out with a couple that argues a lot or something like that, and you were just there while they're going at it, you know, and you think to yourself the whole time, you're like, this is so stupid. Like, why are they arguing about this? Like, why are they so mad at each other right now? Like they're arguing over, you know, like who took my lighter last time, and it's like it costs $2 at the corner store. So it's like eagle in the eye, you know, be that
Let's talk
third
about it.
person watching people argue.
You know what I call that? Having objectivity.
The trap house.
Well, it's like objectivity is like having an intentional out of body experience with what's going on right now. You know what I'm saying? Like pretend there's a copied and pasted version of you that's watching you. You know, like the reality is that if you could have had this version of you 20 years ago, how different would your life be? You know what I'm saying? You probably still would have made some stupid decisions, you know what I'm saying, in life. But at least you have somebody to look at that looks just like you. Say, I saw that dumb shit that you did. You didn't have to do that, you know. And eventually, theoretically, you would eventually listen to yourself. You know what I'm saying? Because for the longest time, you are at war with yourself about the decision that you're about to make. You know what I'm saying? And dealing with the consequences after, because nobody can tell you anything at certain points of your life, right? Not even your parents. Even if they know the answer, you like, I'm still gonna go do some dumb shit either way, you know. And so like if you can, but later on when you had that moment of reflection, like, man, if I knew then what I know now, you know, men are burdened with history. We know where we made bad decisions, the wrong turns, trusted the wrong person, or said yes when we shouldn't have said anything. You know what I'm saying? Because I think the most one of the things I said today, I think the most powerful word that men need to employ is saying no, because we get ground into submission to be yes men until we learn that being a yes man is the most dangerous thing that you could be for yourself. Yes men are not helpful. You know what I'm saying? They cause more chaos. They overcommit and they underperform. Yeah, so and you can't be everywhere at the same time, you know, especially mentally. So you might be there physically, but you might be useless when you're there. If you're mentally preoccupied, you might be a liability. So you got to look at the threats in your environments, and I think that's what we need to talk about. You know, like as I think that needs to be an enduring thing, because every day you take a second of caution before you make a left or a right turn. For a car coming up and down the street, you account for pedestrians, somebody on a bike, someone that's intentionally trying to get hit. You know what I'm saying? Depending on where you live, because I know you live out in California, Spence. So I know the variables in the street are different out there. You know, like speed limits at 80 miles an hour here where I live in Texas. So you know, it's the speed, the flow of traffic, and all these things account for your immediate threats that can take you out if you're careless about them, right? But we have to do the same thing to protect our emotional energy as well. So what we got over here in the comments?
1 and 2. So, Chris, do you think there's any other questions that Nate may have for our head speaker of the Moral Ethics Hall?
Well, let's hear from Nate. Nate, you got any other questions left?
Yeah, I think I got something cooking.
Yeah.
Right.
Keep cooking, man. Keep cooking. I'm here. So,
Just, while he has us right here.
First, I was hoping I could get those 5
Spence?
rules written down specifically. I wanted to actually take a look at those later.
I think we lost him.
I
Oh,
got.
did we lose?
Oh, there you are.
I got you.
Yeah.
Okay. I wasn't sure if you
So
guys
we
could hear
want
me
the
there.
5 rules, right?
Yeah, I can
Yeah,
drop.
no, I want to see those written down. I was looking in the morals channel over there. That's not my specific question, but I wanted to take a look into that once we're all said and done with our chat here.
Oh, yeah.
I really liked where you were going into detail there, Vic. So, but I would, obviously,
Yeah, I think I might be having
that's-
issues. I'm like not hearing you guys.
oh shoot, okay.
I got it. I can hear you. So
With that being
I can hear
said,
you.
one thing that I do think
Spence, can I still not hear you?
need to work on other than the
Yeah, you're
actually
good.
controlling
I hear
those
you. We're good.
emotions.
All right. So we're good, Nate. No more
Yeah.
questions
Oh,
from you.
no, I'm still blabbing. I don't know
He's
if
in the interview right now, Chris. You gotta wait, homie. You've been out
See?
of the conversation for quite some
It's like-
time. Go ahead, keep going, Nate.
anyways, I say all
Unless
that to
I'm
say
typing.
this. Oh, maybe somebody like Crazy. No, I'm in the. I just started talking since it sounded like it would be faster.
For
But
Nate.
anyways,
there's a bit of a delay.
Yeah, screw it. Go for it.
right.
Shoot
So one thing I've struggled with is cell phone use. It's kind of like that. You got that void, that infinite scrolling. It's kind of is sort of far away from that other dichotomy of. Well, I suppose it is similar in a way. It does sort of align with that dichotomy of control. That self control, but less so reacting to other people's emotions, and instead reacting to this little black box that's constantly in your pocket, nagging for your attention at a constant rate. You come from home from work and you're getting bullshit notifications, uh, you know, stupid shit that you don't need to worry about, but yet it's still there demanding your attention constantly. Do you have any recommendations for dealing with that?
That is an age-old thing that's gonna always be a conflict, right? I think that I would probably put the phone in a reward system, if I was really wrestling with that to that degree. And it's difficult to have a honest conversation about that sometimes too, because like I'm so active with my phone, you know what I'm saying, to do a lot of coordinations and calls and stuff, and sitting it aside. I think that once you figure out what your purpose is in general, you will prioritize where the phone fits at in your life, because that phone is powerful. It actually has more control over you when you have no purpose, you know what I'm saying, or you're not working in the purpose that you set out to do. So if we weren't online right now and we weren't functioning to improve, you know what I'm saying, what we believe matters to men, we might be thumbing on our phones right now, or doing something, you know what I'm saying, that kills time and sucks up oxygen for everybody else, So
A bunch of Instagram reels about the
Yeah.
same quote that you heard you tweet fucking 16 times.
yeah, come on, man, reframed on whatever platform you like to use, whether it's on TikTok,
Exactly.
Facebook, whatever else, man. So I think that put your purpose in front of that phone, and you're gonna eventually start prioritizing the
Naturally.
phone less. You know what I'm saying? So I don't want to tell you like some kind of quick answer. You got to be realistic about this stuff, because I think people have too many microwave antidotes, I guess you could say.
Expect.
Yeah, poor expectation management. You know what I'm saying? Because you don't want to crash and go cold turkey. So if you prioritize something else that's also important to you, just as much you prioritize that phone, the phone will actually, you know what I'm saying, you'll pick it up less, you'll scroll less, and I'm saying that because that's actually what I practice. Like, for instance, with my content distribution, like I got a content manager, somebody's helping me with production. So when she tells me you need to post less or you need to post here, she's actually giving me boundaries and discipline about what needs to go where, And then over time, when I start thinking about the importance of why I'm posting on certain frequency, trying to manage my algorithm, certain posts that make less sense for me to even be entertained by, because I'm actually using my social media to do this. This is important, and I want this to be visible. So I'm doing the work on my end to make sure that the algorithm I'm being responsible for brings visibility to a society like this right here. So that's very important. You know what I'm saying? Be realistic and make sure you're putting your purpose in front of things. You know what I'm saying? Oh, look over in the comments. Way to go, Sage. You know, purpose first, man. Everything else is second.
Yeah.
So we got to be honest about that.
To put it, because I mean, I would just say I evolved, but I guess you're right. It was basically you naturally put your priorities first, and then the phone. You even put your phone aside sometimes, even when it's getting blown up. You take those moments, you know.
Yep. Yep.
So it doesn't really, I don't really get stuck on my phone ever because I'm constantly either on it working or stuck on the computer working. So
Yeah, I do a lot of writing, man. So I got it in my hand. You know what I'm saying? Like, but there are times where like I can put it down. You know, I turn it off. I put it on airplane mode just so I don't even get any type of notification. I just disconnect it. You know, um, but I've also been a businessman. You know, like where you have real estate, and I'm running like 11 Airbnb doors at one point. I can't responsibly just put my phone down. You know what I'm saying? You'd be shocked at the dumb calls that you would get when you're dealing, you know what I'm saying, with the hospitality industry. Somebody calling you at 2 o'clock in the morning because they don't know how to turn the shower on. And then if I'm not available because they can't turn the shower on, then I'm a bad host. It's terrible. Be realistic, man. Make sure you got a purpose for what you're doing. So what else we got?
well, I think based on what he's typing right now, we'll see. But
Yeah, I'm ready.
we're getting close to wrapping it up here.
Mhm.
So I'd just like to thank Nate for coming on and joining us during the Social Hour 2.0. This is the second one we've got. We're coming up with them every week until enrollment starts. Then the university is where Victor will be teaching.
Yeah.
Still to be determined and everything, but
Go get the book. Get ready.
accountable masculinity.
Yep, you can find it on Amazon, and it's listed on my link for my link tree. I will repost that very quickly so you guys can see it in the chat, and you go check out you know what I'm saying, everything else I got up there. Book a consultation, you know, you want to have some one-on-one, coaching. Uh, I'm in the business of helping men become better men, and that I think is necessary, man. Somebody to take that task on while they had the availability. Here we go. So check the link out and see.
So Chris,
if I'm offering something.
not to stop you there, but Chris, do you have anything you'd like to add to the night? Is there anything off the top of your head that you'd like to see going into this week? Any words you have for Nate as he's going into this week based off what we said about psychological masculinity and the simplicity of man? So,
Yeah, I mean, I know Nate personally, so I mean, I can vouch for him. Once he gets an idea and he implants it in his mind and says that's something I got to do, he does it, and he's done that many times. So definitely shout out Nate, Sage the Unwise, as he calls himself in the Discord. Yeah, he's a great part of the community.
Yep.
Or the society, should I say.
Mm-hmm.
Yep, and that's what we aim for, to create sophisticated 007 like men that are dangerous but competent.
Yes.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Disciplined.
There's a big
all else.
There's a big thing. I like what you said right there. There's a big difference between being dangerous and reckless. When you're dangerous, you're
Mhm.
disciplined. When you're reckless, you're undisciplined. Two completely different things. So
Yep.
stay dangerous.
Hell yeah.
Mhm.
All right, gentlemen.
Anything else?
Let's see what Sage.
What we got? Staying back.
Staying dangerous.
Staying-
All right.
All right.
That's a good out. All right.
All right, guys. Well, I will talk to you two gentlemen in the next couple of minutes.
Yes.
Nate, thanks for
Mhm.
joining us. And we hope you join us next week and invite some friends, get them on as well if you think they'd like this or benefit from it.
Mhm.
Let's do it. Let's see you gentlemen backstage.
All right.
All right.